Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Cloud Explorers Guild. Today we're diving into management group vending as part of the annual Azure Back to School community event. Hey, I'm Jeff Sugoy. I'm a Microsoft MVP in two categories, DevOps and Infrastructure as Code. From my day-to-day job, I'm a cloud consultant with a heavy focus on architecture, engineering excellence, and security. I'm a passionate blogger. I blog basically about anything Microsoft technology related. Majority of it is focused around Azure and Azure DevOps. So if you're interested in those topics, hit me up on devjeff.nl. Don't worry, it is in English, although it's a .nl site. And don't forget to check out the GitHub organization of the Cloud Explorers Guild, slash github.com/the Cloud Explorers. It contains all kinds of cool stuff, scripts, everything. At the moment, majority related with and around Microsoft, but we do have some contributors that focus on Linux and other open source tools as well. If you to connect with me, hit me up on LinkedIn, QR code top right corner. And without further ado, let's just start. I'm super excited to start. So today's goals. First, let's change our mindset. Let's shift the mindset to vent and not handcraft. Next is learn about the tier model of management groups. And this is the underlying structure to allow for vending. So when we understand the tiering model, which is not super complex anyway, we will try to understand the vending blueprint. When both of those are clear and crisp, you can sit back and enjoy a live demo of management group vending. And I'm going to do this live, so no recordings or anything. So hopefully the demo gods are with me. And at the end of the video, you get the management group vending source code, which I'm using. Well, you can theoretically get it right now as well. It will be linked it is already linked below the video, but they'll also give you some QR codes if you want to share them in different ways. The most important goal, let's have fun with technology, because that's why I love doing blogs, recordings, and everything. All right, so why do we want to vend? Well, management groups provide a powerful way to organize and govern resources, especially as the number of subscriptions grow. It becomes a critical structure. And because it becomes a critical structure, manually configuring management groups starts to introduce inefficiencies and mistakes and risks at a certain point, because the impact will be higher the more subscriptions you have under a certain structure. And if you're already vending your subscriptions, which you should do, please do this. If you haven't done so, focus on getting there. It's one of the core components of automating your cloud environment. But if you do, it's a logical step. It's logical to apply the same process. It will marry both of them easier, and they will profit of each other, both vending strategies. Vending enables the ability to control configuration drift. So think about it this way: your structure, if it starts drifting, who's parent or display names, you can control that, you can correct that, you can log that, you can act on it, all those cool things. Finally, it serves as a base for RBAC and policy automation, because the whole point of having the management group structure is to have a high level RBAC and your policies as well, your corporate policies, to make sure that you have a governor, you're able to govern your Azure cloud. If you build that on top of vending automation, it will be much more flexible and will serve you more. So, to explain the vending concept, I like to use the Azure Landing Zone conceptual architectures provided by Microsoft. This is basically my baseline, and it's Microsoft's baseline as well. This is where Microsoft advises you to go when you're not sure how to set up your cloud, or you want to reiterate, improve on it as well. And one thing to note here is, well, let's do that in the next slide. So let's take it And let's apply our tier model on top of it, because that's the first step. So we map the tiering. We have 6 tiers in total, starting from 0. If you're wondering why 6, this is the hard limitation for Microsoft with regards to management group layers. You can't get more. So it makes it very easy to set up vending. So first tier is in the Microsoft example, Contoso. This is your corporate root. So tier 1 only has one management group structure, one management group. Easy, right? Tier 0. Tier 1 has platform, landing zones, decommissioned, and sandbox. So that's 4. Moving a tier down, tier 2, we have security. And this is the one I wanted to say from the previous slide. Security is a new one. So if you're like, hey, what is security doing on a platform? Check out the updates. It's just been a couple of months when Microsoft completely updated this whole structure. And it's really, really helpful the way they position security. So don't forget to check that out. Next, trustee management, identity and connectivity. And in the landing zones, we have corp and online. I'm going to keep it at those two. I can imagine in your own organization structure, you might have additional management groups at the same level as corp and online. Theoretically, most organizations are done now. You don't really need layer 3, 4, and 5. But since Microsoft provides them, we want to use them in vending as well. We don't want vending to limit. So there is a good reason, by the way, of using at least tier 3. And that's when something as location-based regulatory requirements come into play. If you have, let's say, a data residency, a data security compliance that you need to apply to, depending on region. So let's say Corp actually consists of a US and a European region. If you have that, it's very valid to apply on tier 3 to have US and Europe as 2 separate management groups under Corp or under Online or under both even. However, if you do not have these regulatory requirements, and if you're wondering, how do I know if I have them? Well, very simple. Do you need separate policy initiatives for both? If you don't go there. There's no point. If you need to separate them out because they're different between US and Europe, for example, this is a great use case. So why, I'm sure you guys saw, why do we start at 0? Not just because I used to be a developer and I like to start at 0. There's actually a reason for this. The first tier, the 0 tier, represents the corporate root, which is a single entity that's different from all the other layers, because starting at 0 emphasizes its uniqueness. All subsequent tiers are actually collections. This simple approach improves both readability and maintainability within a team, because you can document this as an agreement, for example, an architecture decision record, and it will make your life very easy with regards to knowledge transfers, etc. So, going to the next step, the blueprint of vending. And the blueprint of vending has 3 components, starting at the Bicep resource module. And this is most simple resource module that you can have with regards to management group creation. It just creates a single management group. It needs a display name and a parent ID, a name, obviously, and you're done. This Bicep resource module is consumed by the vending machine, which is a separate Bicep module that contains modules. And same here, you see that tier 0 again is an object. So that object gets deployed as a resource. That's where you see me playing around with my mouse. All the other ones are actually arrays. So this Bicep resource module is actually iteratively executed depending on the third component, which is the JSON parameter file, where we again specify tier 1 as an object and tier 0 as an object. I keep saying it wrong. Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as arrays. So this Bicep resource module is executed for every item added into the value of tier 1 to 5. So that's pretty clear. The setup is very simple, 3 components, but it does have some prerequisites, and to be precise, two major prerequisites. First one is you need to have elevated access to deploy this, and you need to have elevated access to deploy as tenant root, which is the / scope, and you need to be owner on this. If you're wondering what it is, that's where you need it on. The global admin, user access, admin, elevated access on root, and you need to be set as owner. This is one layer higher than the root management group that you get from Microsoft. Interestingly enough, this layer doesn't exist in the UI. So if you want to set these kind of permissions, you need to do this as code. And a good friend of mine, Wesley Camargo, has written, I believe in 2022 or 2023, a great blog post and with practical snippets of PowerShell on how to do this. Check out this blog post in this link. Again, I will link it also below the video, but this is the place if you need to still configure your permissions for your context to deploy the vending, go here first. If you want to read up on it, you just want to test it out, I have his snippet already as part of the inside the Git repo that again is also shared below this video and that I'm going to demonstrate in a few steps further on. Second prerequisite, and on this one I got you, bro, is an ideal management group naming convention. I wrote already a blog post. Check out the link here or the QR code or click it below, because the IDs of management groups are immutable, similar to regular Azure resources. You want to set them up in a way, and I actually wrote it in 2022 before I realized that we can create a vending machine for management groups. However, when I wrote it, it was written in a way that it was already in line and compliant with vending strategy. So I didn't have to change anything, just reference it. So good news, everybody. Another naming convention. All right. Both prerequisites out of the way, and like some people say, talk is cheap. Show me the code. Demo time. So I've set up an empty environment. My demo environment, basically, I cleared all the management groups, except obviously the tenant root. And I've set up the repo. Let's start at the start here. There we go. The repo on the Cloud Explorers to facilitate the vending. And as explained in the vending process, we have 3 components. In the Azure Resources folder, we have the management group module, which deploys a single management group. Then we have in the patterns, and if you're wondering where this folder structure is coming, it's actually equal to or inspired on Azure verified module structure as well. That way it's easy interchangeable. We have the vending machine, and the vending machine, as you can see, is slightly bigger, around 142 lines of code, where we take as input our JSON arrays, starting from tier 1 and an object for tier 0, and we iterate from tier 1, as you can see, for current management group in tier 1 management group, and we execute the deployment with the name, display name, and a parent ID. It's important to note that the target scope has to be set to tenant, because we're going to do a tenant level deployment. This will fail without this line. Here we have the target scope on management group. If you're wondering why, even our corporate root management group is deployed inside the tenant root group. So the deployment here, the sub deployment basically of the module that's being referenced by the vending machine happens here and happens every time we cascade basically through the levels. Finally, the parameter file. You can see we have empty, and I have an example here as well. We're gonna copy paste, for example, to save everybody's time. I do want to be very respectful of your time. So let's start with the first layer. And it's relatively simple. We need an object, which is the ID, MG001, and a display name. Next, we can take the tier 1 management group. Let's copy paste that one as well, since it's from the Cloud Adoption Framework landing zone. It's always the same. So we have here a tier 0, and you can see tier 0 then is used as a parent ID for tier 1, where we have MG 10001 platform, 10002 landing zone, all of them, as you can see, up to sandbox, decommissioned, etc., have the parent ID of the tier 0. So let's start with this layer first. Before we continue, let's add decommissioned 10003 as the default management group for new subscriptions. So when a deployment happens, I'll actually explain to you why and we're doing this and why is this important. Let's go to script. Same thing here. We have the tenant root permissions. This is the snippet from Wesley's blog. If you need to set it, I have already set it to my context, etc. And you can see we're doing a new AZ tenants deployment. Obviously West Europe in my case, providing template file, parameter file, and I like to add verbose just because. All right, let's start our deployment, see if that's gonna go. And in the meantime, let's talk about this ID of the default management group for subscriptions. This value is used in a pattern all the way down at the bottom. Required authentication for new Microsoft for new MG creation, and part of this we have where is it? So am I explaining this right to you? So that let's see. There we go. If it's empty, we're not going to do anything, but I like to add it anyway to explain it to you. This is where we're consuming that management group ID. So why is this important? You want from a security perspective, you want your subscriptions to be created in the management group that has the least amount permissions and the most strict number of policies. And often that is the decommissioned management group. Why, if you're wondering? Well, if unintentional permissions are given to somebody and he or she will run a script and you're going to get subscriptions or malicious or subscriptions are created with malicious intent, every subscription in your enterprise agreement you can basically use to spend the organization's money with it, because when you start deploying resources, your consumption of them starts going, so you're going to consume resources, and consumption means paying the bill at the end. So to make sure that if a subscription is created through malicious intent or by accident, it cannot be abused, and it's not going to be a very negative surprise on your billing at the end of the month. Hey, why are these subscriptions 20K or 5K or whatever number? You can prevent that by setting this correctly and setting it to a management group that basically has no permissions at all. So if somebody does create it, they go to their subscriptions, they can't do anything in it. So important is at the same time to set the policies on the decommissioned, set the Azure policies on the decommissioned management group correctly to enforce this. As you can see, deployment is finished. So let's check out the portal. And there you go. We have FGF and the 4 layers. So let's go ahead and add the next layer as well. So that should be the tier 2. There we go. And in tier 2, it's deploying, we're gonna go back to our PowerPoint. Let's see, and talk about the tiers a little bit more. So tier 2 has identity, management, connectivity, the new security, corp, and online. And let's run the same script again to show you how flexible the vending really is. So while it's running, slightly go back. So what we have created in the first deployment is this. Created tier 0, Contoso, devchef.nl, platform, landing zones, decommission, sandbox. And what's running right now in the background is tier 2, security, management, identity, connectivity, corp, and online. So go back and see. Okay, it's deploying. And there you see, we have corp online while deployments are going, platform, connectivity, identity management. So basically we're done with regards to the structure. And you can see deployment is finished. Imagine that you, at a certain point, your organization grows, you want to add more. You can simply use tier 3, 4, and 5 in exactly the same manner. Let's say we gonna put 2 under corp in 3. So that means that corp is 2005. So our dependency is gonna be 2005. This is tier 3. So it's going to be 1, and let's call this USA. And call this one 3002, and call this Europe. Save. And run again. Oh. There you go. Let's see what's gonna happen. If we do it correctly, we should have that third layer that we talked about on the corp. So when you're using this management group vending, this is how easy adding, extending, scaling your management groups becomes. You simply modify the JSON file, and there you go. It's still going. Yeah, there you go. Europe, USA. All right, so this is the core functionality, but we talked also about drift. Let's say for whatever reason, let's make sure that, yeah, deployment is done. USA has drifted to online. All right. And let's say that sandbox has drifted to decommissioned. Again, malicious, non-malicious, on purpose, on accident, doesn't matter because we can correct this drift. So USA is now under online, and give it a couple of seconds, we should see, yeah, sandbox under decommissioned. We don't have to change anything. We just run the same deployment again. It's an incremental deployment, so we can keep running this scheduled, for example, or we can have an Azure function that triggers, or other kinds of triggers. Personally, I love running these kind of things in an Azure DevOps pipeline or in GitHub with a cron job, and making sure that there's additional logging here in place as well, that when a drift is corrected, you get a notification, and some research can be done how that drift happened and how it can be corrected and prevented in the future. So deployment is done. Expand, and there you go. USA is back on the corp. Sandbox is back where it belongs. As easy as it goes. This is the power of vending. And this is the power of vending for management groups. All right. Let's do a little check in the meantime as well. And this is what you've seen that we've set. So give me a sec. This part here, management group settings, actually represents the settings. And here we set the default management group for new subscriptions to MG 10003, which is the decommissioned one, as we talked. And there's another setting which is very important. And it's funny that I'm just reading right now. It still says here Azure Active Directory. So I'll see if we can contact the product team and get this fixed to make sure that it says Entra ID. But basically what this means is if this setting is not enabled, anybody in the tenant can create management groups. As long as you're a member of the tenant, you can create them. Which is not something we want, because management group structure is our core structure to base our Microsoft Cloud governance on. So we want to make sure that you will need at least require write permissions for creating a new management group. And write permission that we're talking about is write permissions to at least the tenant root group or any other levels. If you get write permission of devjef.nl, you can create children from that scope on, etc., etc. All right. What else can we show? Let's rename one. Let's rename USA to Americas. Ooh, I like that one. Let's see what happens. Obviously, the management group vending does have some constraints. We're gonna list them in a sec. I'm gonna go through them in a sec. I'm interested actually what will happen here. Yeah, it's still deploying. And there you go, Americas. So why does this work? Well, simple. IDs are leading. We're referencing things with IDs. And as long as you don't break the ID structure, you can play around with them all you want. Inheritance, same thing. As long as it's set there, it's all good. So let's jump into the constraints. Oh, so there are a couple here. The first constraint is permissions, tenant root permissions required. We talked about that. Second constraint, and then I haven't shown this to you, but when we don't need a management group anymore, because we had to restructure the IDs, for example, or for whatever other reason, we need to delete it manually. And the reason for this is not vending, but actually the deployment model. The deployment model that we're using is an incremental one instead of a full deployment. So incremental deployments only modify resources that are declared inside the Bicep or its configuration file. If something is not declared there, it's left as orphan. So if we're gonna remove a management group from that structure, we're gonna redeploy, nothing will happen. You will have to go in and manually remove it. So, but again, here to circumvent this, automation is also possible, because to my knowledge at least, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, you do not want to have a full deployment in a tenant level. I'm not sure if you can. I actually doubt that you can set it to a full deployment, which means basically that anything that is not defined or declared in the configuration, any type of resource will be deleted, which can lead to disastrous results in a tenant deployment. But also subscriptions cannot be deployed. You can deprecate them, you can disable them, and after a grace period for I believe of 90 days, they get deleted. So I think that those are the two constraints why you probably couldn't even deploy a full, well, use a full deployment score on a tenant level deployment execution. So next, the other constraints are management group tree can support up to 6 levels. We talked about that. That's the maximum, the limit from Microsoft. It's hard set. You cannot pass 6 levels. But again, most organizations should never need more than 6. If they do, it's going to be a very unique case, or the management group has not been set up efficiently. Final constraint is the tier dependencies. Because a management group structure is like a pyramid, we need to make sure, because the lower layer depends on the layer above, that we create it from top to bottom. If tier 0 fails, everything below fails. If tier 3 fails, everything below tier 3 fails because of that dependency. A couple of pitfalls and tips with regards to management groups. Well, strive for automation-friendly IDs, because you want to vent this. Your automation needs to be empowered by basically your naming convention in this case. And you've seen I've done that by saying MG prefix and then actually writing the tier, and then 10,000 in 3 and 1 in the 10,000 means that it's tier 1, etc., etc. And use the friendly display names for display names for human interaction. Keep the management group hierarchy as flat as you can. Again, not more than 3 or 4 layers. Don't duplicate your organization structure into deeply nested management groups. There's nothing as constantly changing as the department names. Maybe outside of the standard department as finance, etc. Organizations merge, split, parts get sold off. You do not want your cloud structure to constantly chase strategical management decisions. And use management groups for policy assignment versus billing and airbag purposes, obviously. Don't assign application team permissions via airbag at management group scopes. If you have application team for a specific landing zone or workload, don't use management groups to organize them. You're going to end up with a very complex structure, difficult to maintain. It's not its purpose. There are other techniques to support this. If you want to, assign it on an individual subscription or resource group level. And we can do that through vending of subscriptions, very easy. Don't create management groups for production, testing, and development. So don't DTAP, OTAP, whatever you want to call your street for environments. Don't use your management groups for that. You can basically, bottom 2 points, if you do that, you will not be able to scale properly. Gonna have a hard time. And that's pretty much it. I would like to thank everybody for their time and attention. And if you want to read up on this post on this video, there's actually a post that I created relatively recently on my devjeff.nl blog post. You can see the URL here. You can click it down below or scan the QR code on the left. And for all the goody cool stuff that is created for the blog post, but modified for this video, there is in the Cloud Explorers Guild GitHub organization. There's a repos with specifically what you just saw. You can check it out through the QR code at the top, or the link below, or the link that you see on your screen. I would like to again thank everybody for the time and attention. And if you want to chat, if you have awesome ideas with this or any topic, look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to respond. Have a good day. Bye-bye.